Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Today, we are very fortunate to have Her Grace Radha Vinodini Mataji, who is going to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Verse 16. Hare Krishna, Radha Vinodini Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev. Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving us your association today and for your time. And I request you to please take over the call, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for to all of you who joined today. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, and all glories to you all. So first, before I would like to start with the verse I've chosen, I would like to speak a little bit about how this topic came to my mind, and how it turned out to be this verse, because it was very interesting. So now I'm preparing for a presentation, a workshop about relationships. So I'm very much in this meditation, and I thought I would like to share some points of it with you. And it turned into a really interesting way, because last weekend I attended to a Sunday feast class, and the Mataji there spoke about definition of God, definition of knowledge, and she quoted one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which defines what is knowledge. And I will share my screen with you. Hopefully, can I share it? Can I be a co-host?
Yes, you can share, Mataji, your co-host.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. So is the second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and you can see the highlighted part, which gives this definition that the highest truth is reality, distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. So for me, it was very interesting in two ways, that when we, of course, we can see the result, which is a really inspiring result, that we can get rid of the threefold miseries if we understand this truth. But the second thought was that this knowledge is for the welfare of all. And it made me think about some examples when in the Bhagavatam, for example, we can read about Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, and so many other demons who had some knowledge of actually Vedic knowledge, but used it in a wrong way, and actually it wasn't for the welfare of others. And yeah, because we can see many times that material scientists have big discoveries, and they create atom bomb and stuff, which we can understand that it's bad and hurts people. But we can say, yeah, but this is material knowledge. So maybe if we learn Vedic knowledge, that's a different thing. But we can see that even with Vedic knowledge, it's possible to hurt people. And after the class, I had a discussion with this Mataji about this topic. And our main conclusion was that the problem in these cases, when the demons applied this knowledge, was that he understood something of this knowledge, but didn't have a complete understanding, which includes the goal of knowledge. So obviously, the goal of knowledge is not to hurt other people, but to achieve love of God. So they didn't understand some part of it, and they didn't reach the result. And it made me think about this, that knowledge, types of knowledge, or I would say knowledge contains Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya Gyan, and Prayojana Gyan. So they applied the process, but the Prayojana wasn't achieved, and they didn't care about that. So when it comes to our relationships, we tend to read about how we should act, and we have an idea also about the goal that we would like to have nice relationships with everyone, but sometimes we neglect to hear and learn about Sambandha in this context, because the basic principles of Vedic knowledge, of transcendental knowledge, which are this stuff that we are not this body, we are spirit souls, we desire happiness, we are eternal. In this material life, we cannot get rid of the effects of material nature. Everybody is affected by this. So these basic principles also affect our relationships. And about these, why these are important. For example, I remember that I've heard some cases when people try to tame wild beasts, like lions and stuff, and sometimes these beasts they are tamed for some time and behave very nicely with humans, and at some point something happens, that there is a wound, and they can smell blood, or somehow they taste flesh, and their original nature comes out of them, because their original nature is suppressed, but it's still there. And I also heard some personal story about that, because I have two bosses, and one of them, during her life, at some point, she went to, there was a private zoo in some forest in Hungary, and they had baby lions. And my boss was really, really attached to these lions, and even bought a mobile home and moved there for some time, and spent a lot of time with that lions. And but later, after some years, she came back and got married. She had a child, a little daughter. And but at some point, with the family, they visited the place, this zoo again, and she said that how much it hurt her that she could see that the lion, which was big at that point, he could recognize her, but how much the lion saw her child, this little girl, as prey, because there was no connection, and the lion nature was there, obviously. So we have to be conscious about our nature, our real needs. And one verse also in this connected to this is when Krishna speaks in Bhagavad-Gita about what knowledge is. And I all the time like to quote this, because it's so much different from our material concept of knowledge. And the reason for that in this context, that when we read these things like humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, that all these things contain many different aspects of knowledge. Like it contains the goal, like I didn't highlight it. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me. So obviously that's our goal. But there are also ways how to achieve this. and stuff like that. So this refers to different aspects of knowledge. So about our main verse, I really wanted to select one verse which supports all this, which I would like to speak about. But I searched and searched about what the ideal would be about our relationships. And somehow I didn't find something which totally connected to this topic till I found this verse, which is when Duryodhan insults Vidura. And somehow I could really relate to this verse, because this is something which we so many times experience in our lives, that we have the best intention and someone hurts us. And we have to tolerate all the insults, which we think that we don't deserve. So that's why I thought it's relevant to when it comes to relationships. So it's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse 16. Svayam danur dvarin nidayam. Svayam danur dvarin nidaya mayam Vartu pura marma sudaditopi Sahitamatu atyur banakarna banai Gatavyato yaduru manayana. Srila Prabhupada's translation. Thus, being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. Srila Prabhupada's purport. A pure devotee of the Lord is never perturbed by an awkward position created by the external energy of the Lord. In Bhagavad-Gita 3.27, it is stated, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaha miti manyate. A conditioned soul is absorbed in material existence under the influence of different modes of external energy. Absorbed in the false ego, he thinks that he is doing everything by himself. The external energy of the Lord, the material nature, is fully under the control of the Supreme Lord, and the conditioned soul is fully under the grip of the external energy. Therefore, the conditioned soul is fully under the control of the law of the Lord. But due to illusion only, he thinks himself independent in his activities. Duryodhan was acting under such influence of the external nature, by which he would be vanquished at the ultimate end. He could not accept the sound advice of Vidura, but on the contrary, he insulted that great soul, who was the well-wisher of his whole family. Vidura could understand this because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. In spite of being very strongly insulted by Duryodhan's words, Vidura could see that Duryodhan, under the influence of Maya, the external energy, was making progress on the path toward his own ruination. He therefore considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme, yet he also saw how the internal energy of the Lord helped him in that particular situation. A devotee is always in a renounced temperament because the worldly attractions can never satisfy him. Vidura was never attracted by the royal palace of his brother. He was always ready to leave the place, and devote himself completely to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Now he got the opportunity by the grace of Duryodhan, and instead of being sorry at the strong words of insult, he thanked him from within because it gave him the chance to live alone in a holy place and fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. The word gata vyatah, without being sorry, is significant here because Vidura was relieved from the tribulations which trouble every man engaged in material activities. He therefore thought that there was no need to defend his brother with his bow because his brother was meant for ruination. Thus, he left the palace before Duryodhana could act. Maya, the supreme energy of the Lord, acted here both internally and externally. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Chandamani Svaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Svaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunya Vaditashyata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Relationships is something which we usually very much interested in, because actually what we are looking for in life are relationships. I read lately an article which was published on Dandavats, and its main point was a little bit different, but it was about Google, and one statistics was there, which was made in 29, so quite a few years ago, and it collected the top 5 searches in Google. And the interesting thing is that people that didn't really search for information or knowledge or anything like that. But, well, because in that year, Michael Jackson left his body, the top search was Michael Jackson. But all the other 4 was different kind of social media. So it was very interesting, because it really shows how much we are interested in relationships, in connected to people. And when it's about relationships, it's nice to go back to the beginning, to this Sambandha Gyan, and remind ourselves who we are, what are our expectations, what makes us happy, and how it relates to our relationships. And a little bit about these basic principles, and then I will also apply it connected to relationships. First is that, we have to understand that we are not this body, which means 2 things, that I'm not this gross body, and the second, that I am not this subtle body. So even the first one is not so easy for us to realize, but the second one is even more difficult, because sometimes we mix up what comes from our heart, from the needs of our soul, and what comes from our mind. And many times when we speak about happiness, which obviously we desire, because as spirit souls, our nature originally is Satchit and Ananda. And it's totally natural that we desire for happiness. But what we don't know, what is happiness? So instead of the needs of the soul, we think that if we satisfy our mind, then we will be happy. But the mind is also the creation of material nature, and like this, it's not eternal. It's all the time going from here to there, and connected with the senses, which are also material. So the result is that our happiness, which we think is happiness, becomes the satisfaction of the senses, satisfaction of the mind, and that's a problem, because it cannot satisfy the spirit soul, which is inside, and there is a crave for something which we actually don't satisfy. And the other thing is, which we need to understand in this context, is that our original nature is also that we are servants, originally servants of God, servants of Krishna. and actually services which makes us happy. We can see how happy a mother is who serves her child, even though it's really difficult. Many times don't get enough sleep at night and totally tired, but still the mother is happy. And so this is our original desire, but it's covered by the mind. And also there is one thing which is important to understand, that just as I'm not this body, other people are also not their body, which means that they also suffer, they also desire happiness, and most of them also try to achieve happiness in a bad way, in an improper way, which actually doesn't result happiness. And but the difference between our happiness and others' happiness, and our suffering and others' suffering, is that we feel our own happiness, we feel our own suffering, but we usually don't really feel or don't even see others' happiness and others' suffering. So, for example, when there is some kind of tragedy somewhere and it's there in the news, we can see numbers, how many people have died, or how many of them lost their home, or things like that. But in the news, it seems to be just like a number. And when we see it, when we meet people who experience those things, we can experience a bit more of that suffering. But it's also the same in our day-to-day lives, that many times we don't see others suffering, so don't even see that when they behave in an improper way with us, what is the reason for that? So we can give our frustrations to each other, like, there is a mother goes to the school for her child, and the child lost something, like lost her sweater, and the mom scolds her in a harsh way. But she's just frustrated because she was previously doing some shopping, and the person who was selling things there, she didn't behave in a nice way. But the reason for that, because she was just fired that way, and from the next day she won't have any job. So we don't see all these connections, but many times we just give our suffering to each other, and it can happen in this small way, but it can happen also in a bigger way. For example, in Mahabharata, we can hear that we heard that there was the story of Dronacharya. So Drupada was his friend in childhood and promised him the half of his kingdom. But what happened? Dronacharya went for the kingdom, and not only didn't get the kingdom, but got insulting words instead of that. And what happened was Dronacharya gave his frustration and anger to his disciples. So the Pandavas, the Kauravas had to attack Drupad, because originally they didn't have any problem with him, but their teacher had some problem. So they got this revenge in this way. But also another way, what can happen also in the Mahabharata, we see the story of Amba. So Amba was kidnapped by Bhishma Dev, but her heart belonged to someone else. So he didn't want to be another man's wife. And Bhishma Dev just, when he heard this, he let her go. But at that point, this damage was done. So because Bhishma Dev didn't want to marry Amba because of his vow, Amba was really, really angry and tried to have some revenge. and carried this revenge onto her next life. So this frustration can be given to others, can be given to next generations, can be carried to many years, to next lives. So it's really a dangerous thing. And so to summarize this, we don't see others' pain, but we have to understand this intellectually, that they also suffer the same problems, they also desire the same happiness. So there is also this difficulty for them. The other basic principle which is important to understand is the role of the modes of material nature in our lives, because these also affect our relationships. And one thing is to be reminded in this context, which Krishna speaks about in Bhagavad-Gita, that the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of his of activities that are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature. So this means that, yeah, we think that we are the doers, but based on our actions, we cultivate some of the modes of nature, some more, some less, and whatever modes we cultivate more, they will be more prominent in our lives. And in upcoming difficulties, we tend to think and decide in those directions. And another verse which Krishna said in this regard, that there is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from these modes born of material nature. So we have to deal with this, and it's important for us to understand, to notice these modes in our lives, because that can help us to move in a proper direction, to know what to change and how to change. So we should see what kind of what kind of modes of the material nature are prominent and manifest in our lives. We should practice to reach the higher modes of nature, and we should see what kind of modes manifest in our relationships, because everything is under the influence of these modes. So also our relationships are influenced by this, and we can see what kind of helping this. We can see what kind of modes manifest in the life of others around us, in our relationships. We can learn about how we can uplift others to higher higher modes of material nature, and we should understand how others are influenced by this. So let's start to speak about the practical points, how all this relates to our relationships. So when we speak about relationships, everything starts from us, because in the relationships, obviously, two or even more people are present, but because our suffering, our happiness, and everything depends on how our mind perceives it. It depends on how we understand what is happening, how much we suffer, but also we don't have influence on others' behavior. Obviously, they have free will. They can do whatever they want, but we have a direct influence on how we behave, what are our own actions. And many things in relationships are connected, our own self-esteem, which is important. Many times we search in our relationships someone who how to say, I feel that I am not complete, and I search for someone who make me complete. And that's a problem. I remember sometimes I saw on internet a small picture, and it was like, maybe it was a teddy bear, cute and stuff. And it said that my heart is broken, but sometimes someone will come who will cure my broken heart. And I remember I was somewhat upset seeing this because, it's totally a selfish approach. Even better would be that I will meet someone whose broken heart I could cure. So you can see the difference in approach, but it shows very nicely what's the problem usually with our relationships, that we are looking for people who can help us. But first, for healthy relationships, we have to be healthy in ourselves. And it starts with a healthy self-esteem. And this goes back to the material modes of nature, because different kinds of self-esteem are connected with the different modes. For example, when I think that I'm worse, I'm in a lower position than others, I'm not as important, I'm not as good as them, I'm sure all of you know that is the mode of ignorance. And it have a distracting, damaging effect on the long term. And when we think that we are better than others, and we deserve more, we deserve better, others should, everybody should do what we say, or everybody should act according to our own standards, it's the mode of passion. And also, it's a problem that in this case, I don't see the needs of others. So I'm very much self-centered. In the mode of goodness, there is a balance that I know that I am valuable, but others are also valuable. So I can pay attention to my needs, and I can also pay attention to others' needs. So it's a nice balance, and it's balanced what I give and what I take. So obviously we strive for this one, but I would like to speak a little about the first one. So in the mode of ignorance, what are the symptoms? So we are dependent on others' expectations. That's one thing, because I think that I'm not good enough. So I have to reach others' expectations, and then I will be good enough for them, because I'm not good enough for myself, actually. And the problem with this is that because at some point, while I'm in this meditation, I'm not good enough, it will be part of my identity. And I will search for people for whom I cannot be good enough. So it becomes, it reinforces itself, this process. And, this is like, there is some kind of birthday party and I'm not invited. Immediately my thinking goes in a direction that, oh, they hate me. So nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I'm not good enough. And I even start to pretend that I'm someone else. Which is also disconnected from reality. So it also shows that it's the mode of ignorance. And we can see that it seems to be sometimes like it's all about others, because others' expectations are important, but it's actually about me, because nobody likes me, everybody hates me, nobody supports me. So it's about myself, actually. And in the mode of passion, I think I'm more valuable, so everybody should do what I say. Everybody should act according to my standards. I'm selfish. I want to control. I don't really see others' views, others' ideas. So it's also not really good. But in the mode of goodness, I can understand that, for example, someone hurts me, but I know that it doesn't necessarily mean that there is something wrong with myself. I know that it's actually his or her problem. So in our verse, this Srimad Bhagavatam verse, we can see that Duryodhana insulted Vidura really strongly. But Vidura wasn't sad, wasn't disappointed, wasn't affected due to this, because he was balanced in this. So basically, if we cultivate the mode of goodness, it will also help to achieve a better self-esteem. We will be more balanced, and we will search for the association of others who are balanced. So it will support our relationships nicely. Let's move on to the next topic, when it's also about others. So it's not just me, but we. Let's speak about we. So, which I mentioned previously, that it's also, we should be conscious about that others are not this body. Others also suffer. Others also desire happiness. Others are also affected by the modes of nature. And there is one thing which used to come up in this regard, regarding our friends, associations, is that how much we should see everybody in an equal way, or how much we should discriminate. And I thought I would also speak a little bit about this, because many times we can read from the scriptures things like that, this Pandita Samadarshina, that a wise person sees everybody the same way. And also there is, I will just search this verse. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj speaks here. No, Nisimhadev speaks here. No, sorry. Yeah, it's Prahlad Maharaj here. Okay, so when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service, one becomes a Pandit and does not make distinctions between enemies, friends, and himself. Intelligently, he then thinks every one of us is an eternal servant of God, and therefore we are not different from one another. So this also supports this, that everybody is same in one sense. But in another sense, we can also see verses in the scripture which make us think that we should have some discrimination. For example, this one. So it says, every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate toward him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So it's very interesting that on one hand, we see these verses that we should see everyone as equal. And on the other hand, we can see these verses which say that we should discriminate. And in one of Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu's classes, he spoke about this very nicely, that actually discrimination is the mode of goodness. So yeah, we have the same respect for everyone in our heart. It's just that we show this respect in a different way to everyone. And he spoke about that this, sorry, I'm just searching for some part which I remember there was in my notes, but I don't find now. So anyway, so he said that when we just accept that everybody is equal and there is no distinction, but there is only this unity, that's the mode of ignorance. And when we accept only the differences, that everybody is different, that's the mode of passion. And when we are in the mode of goodness, then we also see the unity and also see the diversity. And I'm sure all of you know that we have to discriminate even in our spiritual life to know what is good for our spiritual life and what is not good. So we follow some practices and we don't follow some practices, some other practices. So it's important to discriminate. But what is important, that we feel the same compassion, the same love, the same respect for everybody. But when it's about friendships, when it's about marriages and relationships like that, when we can choose, we will choose those people's association who are in some way similar to us. So when it's about these relationships, it's important how we choose whom we associate with, because that's important, and how discrimination in how we associate with different type of people, and also important how to care for that relationship, how to make it stronger, how to manage it for it to work. And choosing the friends, the wife or husband, Guru Maharaj just yesterday spoke about this, that we should consider the other person's nature and likings. And I'm sure that the same principle also goes for friends. So it means that character, qualities, and the same goals are important for this. I used to hear these expressions that people who are on the same page, who are like-minded. For example, Shubha Vilas Prabhu once spoke about this topic, and he mentioned that we should approach people with the similar thoughts, similar principles, similar values, and similar priorities of life. And that way, when the relationship is not based on circumstances like who is my colleague or who is my neighbor, who has the same hobby as me, because all of these can change, then relationships can last long. And also, it's the material modes also have an effect in this, because if you think about it, Krishna speaks about this in Bhagavad-Gita, the different in the different modes of nature, what is happiness like? So in the mode of goodness, happiness is poison in the beginning, and in the end, on the long term, it will be nectar. So what happens in our relationship? Difficulties come, and we struggle through these difficulties with communication, with understanding, empathy, sometimes making mistakes, sometimes the need for forgiving each other, and these are struggling. These are quite like poison. But on the long term, all these difficulties, if we handle them properly, they will strengthen and deepen the relationship. So in the end, it will be nectar. But what happens when we are in the mode of passion? Then it's nectar in the beginning and poison in the end. So we meet someone who is so nice, so funny, so kind. We do everything together, and the person hurts us, and then okay, relationship is done. So we just leave and search for someone who is kind enough and funny enough and compassionate enough, and we are just searching because we don't fight through the hardships. And I've heard about this, but I suppose relationships in the mode of ignorance are like, which I spoke about when I spoke about in the topic of self-esteem. That when we feel that we are never good enough and we start to pretend to be someone else, and others don't value us and we don't value us either. So these are the relationships in the different modes of nature. So it's important to care for these relationships properly, and it's also that when there is some difficulty, we should communicate, but communicate properly in a way that doesn't hurt the other person, because communication in a proper way is better than just not speaking about the difficulties. Because if there are difficulties, if we don't discuss them, don't solve them, then they will remain and just like sweeping under the carpet, and then at some point there is no more space, and all the dust will just come into our face. So we should cultivate the mode of goodness in our relationships too. Then they can thrive and will be deep and give happiness. And I would just like to end this with a nice quote. It's from Jim Rohn, not a devotee, but it's a very, very encouraging quote that you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. So we can cultivate the mode of goodness in small steps, one step at a day or at a week. And in small steps, we can achieve a better direction. So that's what I plan to say, and let's open up for discussion.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for this beautiful class. Talked about many topics today. Thank you so much. It was very much learning for me personally. Thank you so much, Mataji. I request devotees, if there are any questions, comments, or realizations, please go ahead. Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you. Please accept my humble obeisance, dear Radha Vinodini, and all the devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev. I really liked how you touched upon various aspects of relationships. This is really something that I'm very concerned about, especially in our ISKCON society. So I appreciated very much all facets of what makes a relationship and how we are when the different modes are taking over. I just wanted to add that Krishna consciousness really is the only solution for us to actually move from the lower modes to the mode of goodness, where we can actually have decent relationships and acquire some good qualities and overcome the lower modes. So I just feel very thankful that you touched upon this topic today and encouraged us to move to mode of goodness. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for adding this part, because sometimes I feel that we don't value Krishna consciousness enough, because originally we came to Krishna consciousness and everything is so fresh and so new, and at some point we just get used to it and forget that how much it's really a great gift which was given to us.
Yes, very true. And it's not just dry philosophy. It's not just all theory. It is so much needed for our day-to-day life, for purifying us at all levels, for purifying our mindset, for purifying our bad attitudes, for purifying our negative thinking, for purifying our health, for purifying our relationship. At every level, there is purification. So it's very practical also, Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Anyone else would like to share any comments or realizations? Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
All yours, Guru Maharaj. So Mataji shared many important points today, especially about the relationship, the modes of relationship. It's very interesting. You said many things where we can have sattvic relationships, and then with that I realized that how much time do we waste when we don't act in Krishna consciousness? May it be relationship or may it be on our personal platform. So it is so very important to have the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Mataji, I wanted to draw the attention on one more thing which you said on the realization on the soul level and on the body and on the subtle body.
Mm-hmm.
I think you mentioned that. So how do we understand the call of the soul and call of the mind? I mean, how do we discriminate in
that? So how do we understand what is the need of the spirit soul? That's your question.
Yeah, we many times are tricked by the mind, right? Which is the subtle body. So how do you understand the call of the soul, which we actually have to do, and we sometimes get boggled by mind playing tricks. So we aren't able to discriminate sometimes. How do we understand that?
Well, I don't have great realizations in this regard. I can only say that because the mind is really tricky and it's really easy to mix the two. For me, the only thing which works at this point is that I to try to see through the eyes of Sadhu Guru Shastra, because the mind is really loud, and when we follow the mind, which is not tamed, not a friend, then we can mistake it to be our original need, as you said, and that's why I try to emphasize that a spirit soul. From the scriptures, we can read this that the scriptures tell us what is not happiness, what is not the need of the soul, and what is the needs of the soul. And so, for me, the only way which worked till now to engage the intelligence, connect it with the scriptures and the what Guru says and Shastra says, and yeah, Sadhu, that's what I missed. And based upon that, because I'm at this point, how to say, cannot make a difference with by my understanding. So I have to use these three, and actually. I think just at some point it will become more natural to see through these three. But I was wondering, Sridevi Mataji, maybe you can add something in this regard, because I'm sure that you have nice realizations and knowledge about this topic too.
Sridevi Mataji. Sridevi Mataji, we cannot hear you.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, Vinodini Mataji. Yeah, go ahead, Mataji.
I was just asking because Namrata Mataji was asking about how we can make how we can see what is the need of the soul, need of the spirit soul, instead of need of the mind, and maybe you can add something in this regard.
Yeah, because what happens is our mind is dictating so many things, you know. Our mind is saying, I want to go here, I want to buy this, I want to do that, I want to eat this, I want to taste that, because the mind and senses is always dragging, and it's only by the power of the intelligence that we can pull back from all these, cravings and longings and desires, and bring back to the real program, which is Krishna consciousness. So only one who is firmly in Krishna consciousness can help another person who is struggling with the modes of material nature. Therefore, it is said that the spiritual master is the only benefactor of the living entity, because only one who is free can free the shackles of someone else. One who is bound up cannot obviously unshackle another person. And so therefore, no one can help anyone in this material world. Only the spiritual master, because he is situated in transcendence, can truly help the spirit soul. And that is why we say, make the words emanating from the lotus mouth of your spiritual master one with your heart. Do not desire anything else. If we want to cross this ocean of nations, which is filled with sharks and crocodiles and all kinds of things, we have to hold on to the lifeline of the words of the spiritual master. If we go according to this one's opinion, that one said this one said that, my mind is, because we are dealing with everyone's mind, including our own. And what is the mind? It is just a conglomerate of so many lifetimes of so many attachments, aversions, desires, hates, likes, prejudices. So it's an unreliable, fallible soldier, as Srila Prabhupada said. This is a fallible soldier. So there is nobody who can help us in this material world except the spiritual master.
Yeah, it's so nice that
I don't know if but I just said what I thought.
Yeah, it's
because Namrata's voice was not, I couldn't catch, because Namrata's voice was very soft, so I couldn't catch what was going on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just hold on.
Can you hear?
Yeah, now it seems to be better.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mataji. I think that was a wonderful insight. Just one thing I would like to add, or would rather ask. I think Krishna conscious association can also help here to distinguish, right?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's just we should discriminate whom we approach for advice, because, you know, in Krishna consciousness there are different levels of devotees, and it's sentimental to think that all the devotees on the transcendental level. In a sense, they are, but in another sense, we need to discriminate in this, And but if we go to senior elevated devotees, then yes.
Yes. Thank you. I think that quite answers my question well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, it is not a dichotomy to approach sadhus, because we have the Guru Sadhu Shastra. We have the 3/4 system of checks and balances, where the sadhus will not tell anything different from what Guru and Shastra says. So, who is a sadhu? Sadhu is one who surrendered to the spiritual master, and therefore he will not say something which is not there in the Shastra. He will not say something different from the spiritual master. So yes, we can approach devotees provided they are firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness and they have reached a certain position where they can guide others. Then yes, we can approach them.
Yeah. On the other hand, I really like this thing that you emphasize so much, this Guru and Sadhu, because from Shastra we also get instructions, but many times we don't apply the proper verses in a proper way. I remember, for example, that sometimes it happened to devotees here in Hungary that they wanted to do some kind of kirtan, which is, this pop music with Hare Krishna. And yeah, it's we can apply the principle that everything can be engaged in Krishna's service. On the other hand, it was just like, I have some kind of attachment and I want to use that because I need that taste. So when we approach someone who can see these subtle things, this can help because scriptures give the basic principles, but the way how to apply it, we need some personal guidance.
Thank you, Mataji. We have Sudha Mataji who raised her hand. Mataji, please go ahead.
Yes, Mataji, thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Dhanut Pranam Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji, for the very nice class. You explained so detailed about all the modes, ignorance, passion, and goodness. So just to understand, like my understanding is right. So just how to evaluate, like as you said, so when we are controlled by mind, that means we are acting under the influence of modes, that is like goodness, passion, and ignorance. That means, like, we always get disturbed. Okay, this person didn't give me good respect, and so we are acting. That means, like, mind, we are controlled by the mind. So when we are not getting disturbed, that means we are more connected to the soul. Right, Mataji?
I suppose that when we are in the mode of goodness, which is also still a material mode, then we are also balanced. So if we are balanced, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are on a transcendental level and connected to the soul.
Okay. Even though
but the lower modes are those cause the problems.
Okay. Okay, Mataji. So I'm just trying to understand, like, what is the difference between the mode of goodness and when we are situated in a transcendental mode. Understand, transcendental mode is like when we are connected to Krishna. But as you mentioned, the mode of goodness, like how you explained the symptoms so nicely when we are situated in a goodness. But what is the difference actually when you are situated in transcendental mode?
I think it's, the transcendental is something which is connected to Krishna. So when we connect with others through Krishna, so when we see that we respect the super soul in them and respect them as devotees many times when they are devotees. Obviously, that's the transcendental mode and not mode, transcendental level. And obviously, it shows in our activities too, because when we are doing some kind of devotional thing together, that's transcendental. But it can be that we are very good friends, very balanced relationship, and we are going to the cinema together, or there are people who devote their lives to others, like managing these foundations for feeding people and stuff. They can be also very balanced and have a relationship with others in the mode of goodness, but it's not connected to Krishna, so it's not transcendental.
Okay. So anything Krishna is like transcendental, even though you're in goodness, but you're connecting that goodness to Krishna, so you're performing all your activities in connection with Krishna, then it's transcendental.
Yes.
Mataji? Okay. Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much for the beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, but also, if we connect through Krishna, it can be that the lower modes affect the relationships. That's the problem why devotees still have a problem, because if we would be fully on the transcendental level, then there wouldn't be these difficulties. I mean, difficulties always are, because there are differences in opinion, but how we handle them. But sometimes even devotees don't handle these difficulties nicely. It happens because, the material modes still affect us, even though there is this transcendental
activity
view in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So even though we are doing devotional activities, still we get affected by lower modes, and how we handle them.
Yes. Just yesterday, when I was watching a class from Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu, he spoke about this, that sometimes devotees think that because I'm a devotee, I'm not affected by my karma, by the material modes of nature, and that's not true, because we are not on a pure level at this point. So we have to deal with our karma and all this stuff. So yeah, it's a different level when we are totally pure devotees. But for some of us, there is some way to go. For me, definitely. So we should understand that we are affected by this at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because we are just trying still to be a pure devotee, so that's why even though we perform devotional, we're still affected by the lower modes.
Yes, we are on the way, so it's valuable. And I remember once I had a question for Guru Maharaj, that it was about kirtan. That I've heard that it's good to participate in those kirtans when there is someone, a pure devotee there. But many times kirtans are not like that. But Guru Maharaj, I suppose he saw that there is some kind of not so healthy discrimination in my question, and he said that we should see that there are two types of pure devotees. One is who is pure in actions, and one is who is pure in endeavors. But these are also not the same. But to feel respect and value the second one too.
Mm-hmm. Very nice, Mataji. I like that point. Pure in actions and pure in endeavors. Yeah, that's very striking to me. Thank you so much, Mataji, again for the beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for that answer. Mataji, there is one question in the chat by Devananda Prabhuji. Shall I read it out for you?
I will read it because it's a longer one, so maybe I better understand this way. So Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev. me a practical question about the attitude to the suffering of other people. Everyone knows that a real war is going on now. It is not conducted according to Vedic principles at all. A lot of civilians are suffering. Right now, sometimes this conference is going on, hundreds, if not thousands of people, including children, babies, are surrounded for 2 months in the most terrible conditions that are even unimaginable. Right now, they are being killed in the most brutal way. But personally, I can't help them practically. So can I just not read the news, protect myself from receiving negative information, and act as if nothing is happening? Your servant, Devananda Pandit Das. Please read this question. Yeah, obviously this war is definitely not about Vedic principles at all. And I'm just wondering, I can state a personal opinion about this, that I suppose that we read the news or not read the news, it doesn't really change anything. So I even heard that I think it was from Indradyumna Swami at some point, that he just stated at some point that he would stop reading the news because that's not beneficial for spiritual life. And I would add to that thing that people like to speak about objective news, but we all know that no news media is totally objective. So everything is filtered through someone's opinion and stuff. So I don't think it's that it's lack of empathy not to hear about this. Obviously, these things are terrible, and we should feel the suffering for these people. But personally, I think that if we use that time, the time of reading the news, instead we chant and offer a kirtan for them or something like that, it's more beneficial in every way. So as you mentioned, it's not possible for us to help. For example, there are some devotees who go there with Food for Life program. For example, from Hungary, there are devotees who go there and distribute prasadam. That's a way of help, but for many people, it's not possible. And but Krishna can help anytime and any way he would like to. So when we approach him, that's the best way how we can help. And chanting, praying, whatever like this, I think that that's a more useful way of helping than reading the news. That's my understanding. But if anybody has anything to add, please do so. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was helpful. Please let me know if it's okay.
Sridevi Mataji, go ahead. Mataji.
Radha Vinodini, you answered beautifully. I would just like to help our God brother by sharing my own feelings about it, if that's helpful. You know, we are sentient human beings. It's not possible for us to become blocks of wood or stone and try not to feel, because we are going to feel a lot of sadness. We're going to feel a lot of compassion. We're going to feel vulnerable, and we're going to feel helpless and powerless to help others, because we want, you know, that's the nature of a Vaishnava. He's para dukkha dukhi. He cannot bear to see the sufferings of others. He wants everyone to be happy. So it's only natural that he's going to feel great distress at what is happening in the world today, especially in the country he is in. But as Radha Vinodini said, you know, if a doctor goes into a sick ward and looks at all the patients and starts going into depression and sadness, saying, oh my God, they're so sick, what can I do? He will not be able to function. He will not be able to do his job. So for us, our protection is Krishna consciousness. Just as the doctor has to become very professional and help the patient, no matter inside he may be feeling so bad for the patient, but he can't hold his hand and sit and cry with the patient. He has to treat him properly. He has to use his thinking and his training to give the best possible diagnosis and medicine and so on. So similarly, we have to see what can I do in this situation that is best for everyone. And what is the best thing? Become Krishna conscious. If we are Krishna conscious, we can help others somewhere, somehow, in some way. But if we go down with the situation, we cannot help ourselves, we cannot help anybody. So I say this, take it with it sounds revolutionary if I say it like this. But my mentor, who is a very, very advanced devotee and many years in Krishna consciousness, she said, spiritual selfishness is the most greatest welfare activity for all. I'll say that again. Spiritual selfishness is the greatest welfare activity. What does that mean? The more we focus on Krishna consciousness, the more spiritual we become, we can actually give the most benefit to others. So if that doctor keeps himself, in good condition, he reads up, he's up to date with everything, he can give the best treatment. Similarly, we have to think, how can I raise the consciousness of this world? By being Krishna conscious myself. I know that sounds as though I'm propagating a culture of selfishness, but it's not. It's actually the greatest welfare activity. Just think about it. Anyway, that's just like 2 paisas. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. It was really, really helpful. It was I was personally so happy that you added this, because it really makes sense. And I don't feel it to be selfish, but it's full of, how to say, heart, like that. Thank you.
Sridevi Mataji, actually, like in the flight, they say that first you wear your mask and then put a mask to others. So then it's like that I felt, Mataji, what you said. Hare Krishna, Radha Vinodini Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances always to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. First of all, this topic is very beautiful, very wonderful topic. You choose, you always choose these kinds of topic to enlighten us. Really very nice. Thank you so much, Mataji. I just want to thank you. I'll listen to the class again and I'll ask questions. I have some questions, but I'm not able to figure it out. But I'll listen to the class again and I'll ask you the questions. Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for all your beautiful answers. Are there any more devotees who would like to ask any question or share any realizations or comments? Okay. If not, then Mataji, with your permission, should we end the call here?
Yes. Thank you very much for managing it.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Personally, I feel very fortunate to have heard you today. I really learned many things, and it is a very important topic, like everyone said, relationships. So thank you so much for this beautiful topic. And just a small realization that I can see through your classes how the empowerment has come from Guru Maharaj. So you could give us such wonderful classes because of your sincerity and your willingness to learn about Shastras. So thank you so much for that, Mataji. Feel very fortunate for your association and for your time. With this, I would like to pay my obeisances to all the devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai, Her Grace Radha Vinodini Mataji ki jai. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Guru Bhakta ki jai.
Thank you so much, Radha Vinodini, for a very, very scholarly presentation, very in-depth presentation, and very heartfelt presentation of different aspects of what actually helps us in relationships. I'm very much grateful to you, and I'm very happy with all the discussions we have had. My hope is that through all these endeavors, that we all become closer and trust each other and learn that love is really here, in the association of Vaishnavas. So thank you very much for this beautiful topic. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Actually, obviously everything is Guru Maharaj's mercy, but also sometimes I listen to Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu's classes and, steal a few things here and there. And I'm so happy that Krishna consciousness is the only field where stealing thoughts and ideas is actually beneficial. So not a sin.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all the devotees. Hare Krishna. Okay.